So my next opponent or opponents this year, we're just looking at fights to kind of get me into that later round, because I feel like with Usyk, I feel like I've got a better skill set than him, but I feel like towards the later rounds, he'll just outdo me, because I've never been in that sort of fight.
Tony Bellew has warned Moses Ituama that facing Oleksandr Usyk right now would be a massive mistake, calling it a dreadful fight for the young heavyweight.
But Turki Al-Sheikh wants to see Moses Ituama in there with Usyk next. I mean, I think that's a bit far-fetched, isn't it, really, considering where he is at this point in his career. He's still so young and inexperienced.
I think that's a dreadful fight for Moses Ituama. The boy's not been past 6 rounds, I don't think, or 7 rounds, and I just think to throw this kid in to the wolves at this stage so early in his career, I just don't get what for.
The former cruiserweight champion, who himself once faced off against the likes of David Haye and Adonis Stevenson, doesn't believe the 20-year-old has yet developed enough to go toe-to-toe with the division's top dog. The boy's not been past 6 rounds, Bellew said, questioning the wisdom of throwing Ituama into such a high-stakes clash so early in his career.
He's a young man, let him develop the same as every other fighter, let him learn his trade.
It almost feels like fighters are put on fast forward now. They don't have the time, they're not allowed the time to build
This is one man's opinion.
Yeah, fair.
This is one man's
But
opinion.
boxing fans do kind of want to see.
Well, they will be, as long as you allow them to be spoiled by this one man. And I think Turki Al-Sheikh's been brilliant for boxing. I really do. I think he's revitalised the game.
We're going to come on to his plans to get rid of pay-per-view and...
he's reinvigorated the game, but one man can never control boxing, the whole of boxing, and that's not my opinion, that's a fact.
Ituama, who has been hailed by both Tyson Fury and Usyk as a future star of the heavyweight division, is making waves with his lightning-fast knockout victories. In his last 3 fights against Marius Wack, Dempsey McKean, and Mike Belogan, Ituama has knocked out all 3 opponents within 2 rounds, an impressive record for someone still so early in his career. However, Bellew feels that facing Usyk, who is widely considered the best heavyweight in the world right now, is not only too soon for Ituama, but also a potential recipe for disaster.
I think he's a good kid. I've said in the past that I think he can be a champion, and I do think, just like I said with Jared Anderson, I think Jared and Moses are very, very both good fighters. However, there's a lot of temptation, there's a lot of stuff outside of boxing that makes fighters not achieve what they should have done. And it's the same old story, if I woulda, shoulda, coulda. If I didn't get involved with these people, if I didn't go out and drink, if I didn't get involved this, that and the other, then I would have, if I woulda, shoulda, coulda. That's why I can sit here today and say I always wanted to not be a woulda, shoulda, coulda guy. I am the guy who did everything he could. And they're only starting off a career, so if they can stay on the right path and away from all the idiots, away from the women, away from the drunken nights, away from all the cranks, then I believe both of them can go on and win world titles.
You must have a view of what level you're at now.
If you want my honest opinion, I think
I do.
If my skill set, if you're talking about my ring IQ and what I display in the ring, I feel like I am the best in the world, but I haven't displayed the later rounds. That's all what I kind of want to get ticked off.
This sentiment was echoed by Joseph Parker's trainer Andy Lee, who also warned Ituama against rushing into such a high-profile bout. Lee pointed out that while Itama's talent is undeniable, a fight with Parker could be a risky proposition for the young contender. There's a risk for Moses that if he fights Joe, he'll never be the same again, Lee cautioned. He also stressed that for both men, the fight carries significant risk. It's a risky fight for both men. It's an exciting fight. Maybe if it's for the vacant title, it will be worth it, Lee said, highlighting that if the fight were for a world title, it might make sense. However, without a title on the line, the consequences of such a fight for Ituama could be dire.
It's for the vacant title. Whoever, could be forever. If it's a vacant title, like who are the contenders? Hergovich if he wins, Moses if he wins, Dillian White if he wins.
Do you like the fight against Moses?
For me, Moses is the future of the heavyweight division. For Moses, it's a risky fight. For Joe, it's a risky fight because there's no upside to beat Moses for Joe. There is. He's building his name. He's a significant heavyweight now, Moses, but he's an up and coming guy, and Joe's already at the top. So there's a risk for Joe, but there's a risk for Moses that he fights Joe, and there's never the same again coming back from it. You know, if Joe has his way and if we have a way, but it's a risky fight for both men, and it's an exciting fight. Maybe it's for the vacant title. It would be worth it. It'd have to be worth it. You know what I mean? So,
adding further intrigue to Ituama's rise in the heavyweight ranks is his status as the next in line to face WBO mandatory challenger Joseph Parker. If Ituama can defeat Dillian Whyte in their upcoming clash in Saudi Arabia, the young heavyweight will have one foot in the door for a world title shot. This fight is crucial for Ituama, who has yet to face someone of Whyte's caliber, and a win over the veteran would set the stage for bigger challenges ahead.
That's a good fight, actually, especially for Moses. I think it's a very good time to fight Dillian. He's had a couple of years out the ring, but you know, make no mistakes, Dillian Whyte is a massive puncher to head and body. I know he's taking it very serious. I'm speaking to Ty Mitchell, who's in training camp with him, and looking forward to the fight. You know, it's a big step up for Moses because he hasn't really fought anybody on Dillian's level. The old Dillian, it was a couple of years ago. And it's going to be interesting to see how much that Dillian Whyte has left. And could this be potential? I think it does have the potential to do what Martin McCauley did to Jared Anderson. Maybe it's too early, or maybe he passes with flying colours. And that's why you got to watch it and find out. But one thing I will say about Moses is he's a very good fighter, good little boxer, good puncher, and a lovely kid as well. It's like a sponge. You tell him something, he absorbs it and he listens. And that's the great thing about the young kids who's coming up. And he's only 20 years old. I told him a few years ago, forget about breaking records, take your time, you've only got one career, and just enjoy it, because I remember when I was 19, 20, and now 36 has gone like that, very quick.
But while Ituama's future looks bright, some experts believe there are still hurdles that could delay his journey to the top. George Groves, the former world champion, shared his thoughts on a potential Usyk versus Ituama bout, saying that the fight is more feasible in about 12 months. I think maybe in 12 months he won't beat Ituama, Groves said, acknowledging that Ituama is still young but could pose a real challenge for Usyk in the future. Groves added that we might see this fight in the coming years as the passing of the torch, something similar to how Lennox Lewis fought Vitaly Klitschko before retiring.
Didn't mention Moses Ituama, but I don't know if Moses Ituama is quite ready yet. Said Joseph Parker. I think that's a great fight. Joseph Parker's here, didn't manage to catch him, but I think that's a great fight. If that one can get made up, and if Usyk wants to carry on boxing, then how can you go against him, man? You can't back him, can't back against him with anyone out there right now. That was a brilliant performance. You know, Daniel Dubois is supposed to be the next coming, the future. Beat this guy, beat this guy, beat this guy. The bigger, stronger, aggressive fighter, and he got obliterated, really, which is, you know, Brits, we want him to win. Daniel Dubois, I've known him since he was a kid, or I'd certainly known of him since he was a kid, boxed out of my amateur boxing club. But, you know, just as a former fighter, boxing purist, boxing fan, you can only appreciate Oleksandr Usyk.
As it stands, Usyk remains the undisputed heavyweight champion, having comfortably defended his titles against the likes of Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois. His performance against Dubois in their July rematch at Wembley further solidified his standing as the top heavyweight in the world, with many pundits wondering who could realistically challenge him next. Frank Warren, a prominent figure in boxing, has already suggested that Usyk's next challenge should be against Joseph Parker. Warren pointed out that the WBO has ordered a fight between Usyk and Parker, as Parker is the mandatory challenger.
Now, given that you are such an admirer of his and you appreciate his skill, because you're an appreciator of skill, what makes you think that you've got the toolkit to dethrone him?
I believe wholeheartedly in my ability and what I can do in the ring. I have full confidence that give me a good camp or give me some time to put in the work with Andy Lee and George Lockhart. I want to come up with a good game plan, probably different to everyone else's one, and just work hard.
But given you have had one round since March 24, is it the right move for you to take this opportunity rather than having a fight in between it to get yourself into a situation where you're really in the zone?
That is a good question, because I've had one fight in 2024, one this year, and activity is key, and he's been very busy, Usyk.
What is the reason behind you only having one round, Joe? Like, politics of the sport?
I have no idea.
You've been knocking on the door,
I've been knocking on the door, I've been asking for any fight and every fight. Who knows, right?
However, this does not rule out the possibility of Usyk facing Ituama down the road, though Warren is not rushing to book that fight just yet. The heavyweight division is currently experiencing an exciting time, with new talents like Ituama coming through the ranks, yet many, including Warren, believe the young fighter is still not quite ready for the challenge posed by Usyk. As for Ituama, his upcoming fight with Dillian Whyte is seen as a significant step up, and a win here could bring him closer to a world title shot. But again, many are advocating for Ituama to take his time and build up to such a major showdown.
Moses is at a stage now where where I feel that he, every fight he's had, we're increasing the quality of the opposition, and he's ready for the next big step up, and it has to be against a recognisable name.
So is this, let me make it a supposition that this is potentially going to happen, and you don't have to comment on it, but is it the kind of fight that you want to see Moses in now?
Yes. Yeah.
And if it were Dillian, what does it say about Dillian? Is it the sort of fight that he would really fancy?
Well, if the fight took place, then obviously he would fancy it.
Do you think it's the right fight for both of these guys at this stage of their careers, Frank? Because they're at the opposite ends of their careers, aren't they? But do you think it makes sense for both guys?
Look, Dillian's in the business. He obviously wants paydays, but he wants another shot at the title, and he wants to get himself into a position to do that. And for him, looking at all the fighters, all the organisations, you look at Moses. Moses is ranked #1 now by the WBO. So if he were to fight Moses, then that puts him in the #1 spot if he were to beat Moses.
Usyk's impressive win over Dubois has left many in the boxing world wondering what's next for the Ukrainian. The fight, which ended in the 5th round, showcased Usyk's trademark sharpness and composure under pressure. As many fans and analysts speculate on his next opponent, some have suggested that Ituama, despite his raw talent, might still be too inexperienced to take on the champion. Roy Jones Jr., the legendary former world champion, expressed similar sentiments, saying that Ituama's matchup with Whyte will serve as a good test before considering a fight with Usyk.
Talking about heavyweights, I don't know how much you've seen of him, this 20-year-old prodigy that we have in Moses Ituama. Incredible speed, agility, power, explosiveness. He's got a fight with Dillian Whyte coming up in Riyadh on August 16th. How much have you seen of Moses? What do you make of him?
Haven't seen a lot of him. I have seen small clips of him, but he is fighting a good fight with Dillian Whyte right now. This is the fight he needs to get the extra experience. So once he gets a few more experience fights, then you put him in Usyk. You can't do like they did with the other kid, Big Baby from the US, and put him in too early because you're ruining him. You understand me? You can't put him in too early like that. So if you give him a few more test runs, Dillian Whyte is a great test run for him. If he does that, give him something a little bit higher than that, then you let him fight Usyk. Don't just rush him right to Usyk right now. Let Joseph Parker fight Usyk right now. Joseph Parker is in Usyk's time. This kid is coming up behind Usyk. When Usyk retires, this kid's still gonna be fighting.
Adding to the uncertainty surrounding Ituama's trajectory, there's been talk of a potential showdown between Joseph Parker and Usyk. Parker, who has been on a strong run of form, recently defeated Martin Bakole, Jilei Zhang, and Deontay Wilder, which has many believing he could present problems for Usyk in the ring. Chris Algieri, another former fighter turned analyst, suggested that Parker could indeed be a dangerous opponent for Usyk, noting that Parker is a seasoned pro with a lot of experience. Algieri also pointed out that Parker's size and athleticism, combined with his experience as a former world champion, could be factors that make him a tricky matchup for Usyk.
He's got a lot of experience. He's a former world champion. He's big for the weight class. He's athletic, and he's coming off a 3-fight win streak that, I mean, rivals any one of the top contenders right now. He KOs Martin Bakole in his last fight. He beat Jilei Zhang before that, and Deontay Wilder before that. If anyone deserves a shot, it's Joseph Parker, and it's just unfortunate for him.
For Ituama, his journey is still in its early stages, and while the hype around him is immense, there's no need to rush. Some like Roy Jones Jr. believe that he is still 2 wins away from being ready to face someone like Usyk. In this regard, Ituama's fight with Dillian Whyte is crucial, and a win over the veteran would place him in a strong position for future title shots. However, the question remains, is Ituama ready for a man as skilled and experienced as Usyk, or will he be better served by taking a few more developmental fights before stepping into the ring with the undisputed champion?
Where are you? Do you see that fight ever happening? Because I think that's one of the fights that Oleksandr Usyk shouldn't take. Moses Ituama, but I also don't think it's right for Moses at this moment in time.
Well, listen, let's start off with Oleksandr Usyk. Oleksandr Usyk is a fight where you get to a stage where you're in the twilight of your career, and he's probably going to have one more fight if he has one more fight, and that's possibly this man here. But you go like at some point,
which by the way he's earned.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. But at this, when you got the young kids coming through, it would be a disaster for Moses Ituama to take a fight against Oleksandr Usyk now, because you've got a kid that's going to potentially be, the next dominant force of heavyweight boxing for maybe the next 10 years.
The road to a world title in boxing is often a winding one, and Ituama is clearly on a fast track. But as many experts have pointed out, there's no need to rush the process. While Itama's raw power and ability to finish fights early have garnered attention, boxing fans should temper their expectations for now. The heavyweight division is full of talent, and while Usyk sits at the top, there are a number of contenders lining up to challenge him. Joseph Parker, in particular, remains one of the most intriguing options for Usyk, and many believe he would offer the toughest challenge for the champion at this stage. For Ituama, the future is bright, but the path to greatness is not one to be rushed.
I mean, obviously, he's a competitor, he's a rival. He's the young one that's getting a lot of attention and blasting people out. You just landed in the heavyweights, Lawrence. When you think of Moses Ituama, what do you think of?
Yeah, I think of pretty much what everyone else is saying. Obviously, I've sparred him, I've seen him, and it's not fake. Like, it hasn't come from out of thin air. The guy's actually really good at boxing, I'll be honest with you.
Yep.
So we have to obviously wait and see how he does the rounds, see how it is under pressure of fight nights. But ultimately, from everything that I know of him, he's got a good mindset. And he is someone that if I was just looking at as a fan, I would get behind at this early stage, because to be 20 and doing the stuff that he's doing, like,
in the end, boxing fans have a lot to look forward to in the coming months, especially with Itama's next fight against Dillian Whyte, set to be a major test of his potential. Whether or not Ituama will be ready for the likes of Usyk anytime soon remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: the heavyweight division is about to get even more exciting, and Itama's name will likely be a key part of the conversation moving forward.